This is the irregularly scheduled meeting of Planning and Zoning. It is a special meeting. The meeting is called to order at 5:19 p.m. We are not in the BOCC meeting room. We are 4 people in the same office, separated by drywall, and then each in our own living rooms. This meeting is called to order. I am looking for, oh, sorry, we have a quorum. It's Cliff Weiss, Jasmine Tiger, Suzanne Caskey, Zachary Matthews calling in, and myself, Jeffrey Woodruff. From staff, we have Suzanne Wolf, Bonnie Shiles, Cindy Hubin, and Joanna Schaffner is our guest speaker for this special middle of December 14th meeting. And yeah, the meeting's called to order. Commissioner comments unrelated to land use code text amendments that we then forward and recommend to the Board of County Commissioners.
Is this where I can bring up February 1st?
You meant, yeah, unrelated to December 14th.
Fine, it's unrelated. I am deeply disappointed that a GMQS competition is coming up when we have been trying or wanting to reform that entire program. And here's an ugly one, and it's in a rural area, which only makes it that much worse for me. Just stating, I know all our backs are against the wall and the arrows are flying, but boy, seeing that was, you know, red flag in front of an old bull. I'll leave it at that.
Suzanne, is this where you are real quick?
Jeffrey, are you ready for us to jump in on?
Commissioners first.
Yeah.
There's a few more. They've been waiting patiently for 21 minutes for people to call in and make quorum. Suzanne Caskey, Jasmine Tiger, Zach Matthews, or I don't know who 309-1443 is, but you're now on YouTube. Anything unrelated, commissioner comments unrelated to December 14th at 5:21 p.m. So seeing no commissioner comments, I've got 3 on my plate. I want to thank both Suzanne and David Corbin for the duration of the year and going through something that basically got kicked off 3 years ago. So thank you both, you know, both for your time in terms of the community and clearly the work hours spent, you know, behind the scenes as well as in front of Planning and Zoning and the Board of County Commissioners. And I also want to thank, you know, so sort of my year end, like I'm too lazy to fill out greeting cards. I also want to thank Leslie Lamont for a questionable application, which was this Broomfield-based company, and turning around with Prime Energy. And so all the juggles, all the changes in number of panels and players and applicants and getting it done. I drove by the 35 acres and it looks beautiful, non-reflective, and you know, drove home before this meeting. And then I wanted to thank everyone. So thank you, Prime Energy, for picking up where Rez and Broomfield dropped the ball. Thank you, Prime Energy, and thank you, California, and thank you, Leslie. And then my third thanks is the work that's being done on the LDCPs and sort of the preservation of open space. I think as we've all seen over the last year, you know, the importance of open space and trails and sort of access and, you know, the backyard remaining a place that we can hike, bike, and you know, kill animals. So those are my 3 thank yous for 2021, and thank you to the Burkos. Any other staff comments or commissioners? Awaken any child? Staff comment unrelated to December 10th, 12th, 14th, whatever this is, at 5:23 p.m.
So I guess I'll jump in first and then hand it off to Cindy to talk a little bit more. So I know you feel like we've neglected you in 2021 and not really had enough meetings for you. So we're really looking to make up for that in 2022. And as you can see, the first quarter of 2022, we have a full docket for you. So I know some of you will appreciate that. Hopefully all of you, and hopefully we can have quorums. But so there's a bunch of long range meetings, and then Cindy can jump in on those. But we do also have caseload meetings. So we're back to, at least having one caseload meeting a month, and then a long range meeting a month. And then Cindy, I think, has some extra, joint meetings to talk to you about. And Joanna's kicking it off tonight with us, trying to start to chip away at our really long, ugly list of things we'd like to change in the code. So we're hoping to bring more of those to you in January for a caseload meeting. And then, try and get a little bit on track of just trying to maybe bring them to you more consistently, so we can try and chip away at some of the backlog of code amendments, which are more the small ones in theory versus the big, big, things that will also be coming your way. So anyway, just wanted to lay out the calendar so people can make sure they're starting to get dates on their calendars. And I'll let you take it, Cindy.
Yeah,
And just a
thank
question for
you.
you, Suzanne, is it normal that we would do joint meetings and then review the master plans?
Yeah, let me back up on that a little bit for you, Jeffrey. I just wanted to thank you, Suzanne, for asking me to be here tonight and talk a little bit about the long range program and what's on your agenda. What Ellen and I did is we tried to back into where we are now with our review of master plans, and then try to get on your calendar. But we also wanted to get because you, as the P&Z, are responsible for the adoption of those master plans. But as you know, the Board of County Commissioners is responsible ultimately for any code amendments that might be a result of those master plans. So we want to make sure that they are in the loop, in the review, so that if there are any red flags for the Board of County Commissioners, the P&Z, you guys can respond to those prior to your adoption of the plans. So what we tried to do is schedule those out. And as Suzanne and Cliff were talking earlier about the Castle Creek Master Plan, that is underway. We've had, I think, 4 meetings now on that. And we're having some smaller sub meetings starting. We've had probably about the same amount, if not more, on the east of Aspen Master Plan, with a little bit less participation on that side of the hill. But we have moved through all those steps with those 2 master plans, and we want to get to you guys with those master plans in February. But before that, have a joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners on the final draft, if you will, or as close as we can get towards the end of January. So I think that's January 25th. Then we will, and that's for the Castle Creek Master Plan and the East of Aspen Master Plan. Then we're also working on the Brush Creek Master Plan, and we've actually hired Tim Malloy to help us with that because we just have so much on our plates. And we had the existing conditions already all done, and then the Brush Creek decided they wanted to form or reform from many, many years ago a caucus. So that took place, and now we're back for that caucus and that planning area to review the Brush Creek Master Plan, which we hope to bring back to you in March. So we've got those all lined up for you. And Cliff, in response to your earlier comment about growth management and trying to get back to that, we are hopefully going to have time with the Board of County Commissioners to talk about what they want to do with their outreach and their schedule coming up. They have a retreat in early February. So hopefully after that, then we'll know more about where the board wants to go with growth management and that outreach. There's just so much going on. And I think, Joe, you were the one that said, hey, we really ought to have all the master plans lined up and ready when we start that growth management review again. So we're hoping to be in that position. We've got 2 more master plans that are in the works. The Owl Creek Master Plan, we had a representative from the Owl Creek area helping us, and we've had several comments back and forth from just a few people, unfortunately, not a lot. So we have to open that door again and try to get more public comment on that master plan after we're done with east of Aspen and Castle Creek. And then we have what's called the GAP plan, but it's really the area right around Basalt and Up Valley a little bit that we've never had a master plan for other than the Down Valley master plan. So we hope to get that more engaged, but we really want to work with Basalt on that and tag team that some with them, because it's, even though while it's not officially an urban growth boundary, it really relates to Basalt. So that one's a little bit of a wild card, and I'm not sure that's going to be all done by the time we want to start kicking off the growth management public outreach again. But we're in pretty good shape with all the rest of them being updated. And that's why we're going to ask you to be so busy coming up here in the winter and spring and reviewing those master plans. So that's what we have. And I'd love to hear back from you if you think that's too aggressive of a schedule, but I'm hoping not, so that we can get kicked off with the rest of what we need to do. So what do you guys think? Because you'll have your regular meetings as well.
I'm comfortable with the first 3-month plan, but I'll throw it out to the rest of the team. And I'll throw it back also to Joe or Zach, if you had any comments unrelated to this evening, or just to, in terms of the calendar diary in general as well. And thank you for both of us for joining us. And I guess, Cindy, the unanswered was, do we normally meet with the BOCC in joint meetings? I think you answered yes. In terms of, is that best use of time? And you're on mute now, sorry.
Yeah, I think it is the best use of time. And I think that it's more FaceTime for you with the board. And, it's more direct as far as understanding what issues come up when we're looking at master plans. So I think it's a more preferable way to talk about the master plans, doing that together. And like I say, more directly with the board. So, but if you don't feel that way, we can have individualized meetings, but we're hoping to have, a work session first with you on the master plan so that you'll understand what's going on and what the comments have been and what the public sentiment is and where that might differ from staff recommendations.
Yeah,
That
no,
all sounds good to me. I'm very pleased with going about it as you've set it up.
Yeah, I was just going to reflect that I think one of the disconnects was when something's not remanded and we haven't had a conversation, it feels a little bit like we're spinning wheels and we're searching for what, and again, it's vis-a-vis one of the caseload items from 2021. I think it, both from a client standpoint, a staff standpoint, and a P&Z standpoint, we could have had a smoother transition between, what is the process and how do we go about it? So, and I just think it's a learning lesson out of 2021. It's not a criticism. If that makes sense. Joe or Zach or picking staff, anything unrelated to this evening's grab bag of land use code text amendments that we will then make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. I do not see any public on this, but there is a number which is 379-5823. It is now on the internet. It's on YouTube. I don't know who you are. 379-5823.
Monty says he's on the meeting. He just texted me, but muted and asked if we can unmute him. So maybe that's,
Hey, you got me now? It's Monty.
okay. There you go.
Excellent. Monty,
Sorry I'm
thanks for
late.
joining us.
I was on jury duty. So. You guys have me?
Welcome, Buckeye.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Go
I don't know
Bama.
what a Buckeye is, but it sounds vegetarian.
Ohio
And-
State University.
You don't want to eat the Buckeye from the Buckeye tree. It's poisonous.
Exactly.
That's why they win football games.
So we do have one agenda item this evening. It is known as the grab bag of land use code text amendments. It does feel like the end of December. Joanna Schaffner, I don't know if you, and sorry, Joe, if you, or Joe or Monty or Zach, if you had something unrelated to this evening's presentation, or you're looking for, okay. Joanna, I think we do have quite a bit of substantive feedback, so I hope it's a good dialogue with you. And yeah, we're happy to sign your reso and enjoy the rest of the year. So, but we're going to turn it over to you. But again, I think there's going to be a bunch of commissioner comments, both on the reso as well as the changes, and just some dotting I questions, I guess. So thank you for joining us. The table and the floor are yours.
Well, that doesn't bode well, because in that long list of code amendments that we have, I thought I was taking a whole bunch that weren't controversial at all. So we'll see how that goes. Hi, for those that don't know me, I'm Joanna Schaffner. I work with community development, and I'm here to try to forward some code amendments on to you. For sake of the meeting, I broke it down into 4 different sections and grouping like things together. And so without further ado, we'll just go into section 1, where there are several growth management exemptions that exist for various subdivisions in the county. And these aren't really spelled out clearly anywhere. You have to kind of dig around and know where to look for things. And so we thought it might be best to finally codify them, because some of us in the department don't really plan on being here forever. And when we leave, somebody's going to have to know where this stuff is. So we want to put it in the code. And the first one is, and again, these are existing growth management exemptions that we're just trying to put it into the code. So we're not really proposing anything new here. And we start with Meadowood. And Meadowood has an exemption where they are allowed not only the amount that they are allowed based on their ratio that's allowed in their zone district, but then they were also awarded, I think it was like 2,528 square feet. And then the 2 lots that actually brought the lawsuit, they received more floor area. So based on the lawsuit that happened with Meadowood, the exemption turns out they are allowed their ratio plus the amount that they were awarded in the lawsuit, and combined, that is their growth management exemption. There was a subsequent amendment that was done that said that could be your exemption, or 5750, whichever gives you more, because some of the lots were so small that with their ratio and the award, they still had less than 5750. So again, we're just kind of cleaning up some of that existing language. Questions on that one?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Cliff. I went through all this over the last couple of days, and there are all these exemptions with additional floor area, but no history. Like, how did they get? Some of these got huge exemptions, and there's no history as to why any of this took place.
Cliff,
Yes.
as I understand it, it had to do with, there's a large meadow in the middle of Meadowood. And the people who brought the lawsuit convinced whoever that since the meadow is in common ownership, that I think people own 1/67th of it or something. And that person talked somebody into, I guess through the lawsuit, into saying that he could claim that as a part of his property, that extra little piece. And so as I see it, I mean, I'm not pleased about it, but it's done and passed. And so I think that what Joanna is presenting right now is, even though the history is not there, it's done and gone. And all we're saying is we're recognizing that's a fact.
I'm happy to provide more history on any one of these if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want a book. 25 words, actually, what Suzanne just did was all I really needed to know on each of these. There seems so many of these special case exemptions, and I kind of wondered how these things ever went through in the first place. I realize it's history. I realize we're not here to change anything,
Mhm.
but it's like working with something without any content.
Mhm.
But, I'll let it go. I'm just, I don't want to drag this night out in any of this, but it caught me by surprise.
It caught me by surprise, and I live here.
Just
I
so-
live right next to that meadow, so I understand.
Uh-huh.
just from a formality standpoint, since Joanna broke them down into 4 pieces, let her present, I guess, each section, and then we'll do commissioner comments on each section, and then move
Fine,
forward.
I'm done.
Okay, then we'll continue on with Star Mesa. So up on Star Mesa, there are 6 lots, and they also were subdivided prior to growth management. This went into a lawsuit to the Supreme Court, as I understand it, and we've recognized this all along, that each lot has a growth management exemption of 15,000 square feet. Joe made a good point here that it's perhaps not clear that each lot receives a 15,000 square foot exemption. Joe, that was the intent, and I already made that change in my memo here. So thank you for that close reading. And again, these lots basically were subdivided prior to growth management, and that's why they're getting this exemption. We follow this with Eagle Pines. Eagle Pines, we would have liked to have stuck a resolution number with this to kind of explain the history, but there isn't one. I spoke with John Ely, and he kind of offered this language here that based on court decisions and subsequent legal determinations, this involved lawsuits that went back with a subdivision that was proposed prior to Eagle Pines, and then it all kind of predates me. But there's a history here that perhaps I can't explain that well. But again, it's been recognized by the county attorney's office that we have an 11,500 square foot exemption for the lots in Eagle Pines. The preserve subdivision is unique in the county. It's the only subdivision that was granted a lump sum floor area for all the lots that are there. They were granted an amount in excess of 141,000 square feet. The amount was never divided equally among the lots initially in the approvals. It was just given a lump sum based on the AR2 zone district. When they came in for permits, staff issued permits based on a first come, first served basis, because we didn't have anything to direct us to evenly divide that amount. Obviously, the last guy gets screwed because there won't be enough floor area remaining for him. And so the homeowners, the HOA, came in and they did an amendment to their protective covenant. In that amendment, they divided up the FAR. Of the 11 lots, 9 lots got 12,823 square feet, and 2 lots represented pre-existing development that was there before the subdivision. And those 2 lots were awarded more floor area. We recognized that even though we weren't a party to that amendment, we recognized the division of floor area, but we don't recognize that as a division of growth management. So I know, Joe, you had made a comment, or you sent me an email where you identified 2 lots that you thought had a greater growth management allowance. And although we recognize those as greater floor area allowances, we decided to divvy up the growth management exemptions equally between the 11 lots. And that's why we come up with the amount of 12,873 square feet per lot. So I know you're going to have comments on that later. So I'll just continue on. previously, we deleted an exemption for the RS 160 zone district. It was deleted in one code section and we missed deleting it in another code section. And so now we're just proposing to delete that code section and clean it up. So again, we don't recognize anything earth shattering here. This is kind of how we've been doing it in practice. And again, each one has its own little history, but these are the exemptions that we recognize and we wanted to codify. Do you want to take questions on section 1 or shall I continue?
Let's go section by section, so it's just fresh, and I think it's conversational. And again, Joe, I appreciate your email in advance, and I think I sent an email in advance. So questions for Joanna with regards to section 1 and the potential land use code text change amendments.
Sure, I'll take that. If you want to share my screen, I'll pop up the
Please.
allocation.
I don't know if Bonnie has to do something or you just.
I don't think so, but let me see if it works.
Awesome.
So can you see that?
Yes, sir.
So this is the third amendment to the protective covenants that Johanna was just talking about. And generally, yeah, we have the 12,873. I think that there may have been a typo in one of those there, but in any event. So it looks like, like lot 2 ended up with 14,818. And I believe what happened is lot 9 went down to 10,928. So from a I've never actually added up these. I don't know, maybe somebody else has, but and to see if they're the actual, the whatever 141,000. But I think by wording it that way, we may inadvertently allow 9 to go up to 12,873 when I think 9 is capped at 10,928. And then 2, if it says it's 12,873, is 2 now become is it non-conforming or not? And should we call out those 2? So, I just pointed it out because I'm somewhat familiar with the subdivision over there, having, worked with them years ago.
And if you add those,
actually, it was one of my first growth management applications that I ever even heard of back then.
And
but
Joe, if you add lot 2 and lot 9, the average is 12,873.
Right. So yeah, so I think what happens is you got 9 and 2 did a swap or however it came out. So we could, if you say in the code everybody's got 12,873, then 9 comes in and says, hey, I got another 2,000 square feet. Well, do they really?
Joanna, you have the floor, please.
So these are floor area numbers. In addition to this amount, they're allowed up to 4,000 square feet of below grade and up to 750 square feet of garage area. They can go up to 15,000 and then they max out. Growth management is based on gross floor area, not on the floor area numbers that are represented here. So even though they're only allowed 10,928, they're still allowed another 4,750 if they were going to do full max out. And so we're still saying that of that 14,000, 15,000, they're only going to be exempt up to 12,873. So it's the difference between floor area and gross floor area, and growth management is based on gross floor area. So I think in effect, it might be a moot point because I think almost all of the lots in the preserve are developed already, and they're probably all have in excess of 12,000 gross floor area. Most of those lots developed in the 90s, they have below grade space and they have garage areas, and that was all happened before we had a gross floor area definition. So a lot of things have changed out there.
I'm siding with Joe on this one. I guess my concern is the client comes back, scrapes, and then he could add 2,000 and doesn't need a TDR. So I would share the same concern Joe just iterated, which is we just gave someone 2,000 square feet. They didn't have awarded the initial, whatever that was, 83 or 93 subdivision plan.
I'm having difficulty hearing you.
I guess I'm siding with Joe on this one, that I'm concerned that the client scrapes and replaces and comes back and we have another 12,873 square foot home when we had a 10,000 square foot home there that was existing. In other words, we just awarded someone 2,000 square feet by generalizing in the code.
I think what Joanna's trying to say is, I mean, they still could only have that 10,000, whatever it is, of floor area. Anything beyond that that goes towards the gross floor area can only be below grade or the garage space. So is that kind of where you're headed, Joanna, with that? So again, the growth management exemption, right, doesn't change. But we'd have to specify this being, I guess, gross floor area is your growth management exemption. And I just have a question, maybe I'll throw it out now, well, because for Joanna, is if you can, I guess I don't understand the piece about the Smith parcel. I know that was a separate meets and bounds adjacent parcel, but when you add up the floor areas for those 11 lots, you get the 141,000. So I guess I'm unclear now what the allocation is or exemption is for the Smith parcel, or if that's not part of this.
So when you look in the file, there's calculations that were done when they were trying to, prior to the redevelopment of the Smith parcel. And it kind of, there's a whole calculation, excuse me, that shows how the Smith parcel was originally calculated and then kind of carved out. The 141,000 is based on the 11 lots. And, you know, without showing you that calculation, I'm going to trip over my own tongue trying to explain it. So I can, in some places here, I say it's gross floor area in the memo. And so I guess I could drop in gross in other areas. But throughout the code, growth management is based on gross floor area.
Did we address your questions on section 1?
So Jeffrey, I think to address your concern, we're not on that 10,000 square foot a lot that has 10,000 square foot allowance. We're not giving them any more floor area, but they are allowed more gross floor area because the garage and the below grade area isn't included in that 10,000 square feet.
But I guess I don't know, again, I don't know what the existing house is. My concern was that they scrape a 10, they put in a 12, and then all of a sudden they add 4 and 750. So they end up with 16, 17,000 in square footage in floor area, sorry. Did we just give them 2,000 square feet by generalizing and that table's, I mean, why don't we just put that table directly into the land use code since we're being so specific based on each subdivision?
Because we were trying to give all the lots an equal growth management exemption, regardless of whether or not we recognize the division of floor area. We're not giving anybody any more floor area because it's all based on gross. And again, it's going to be a moot point for most of those lots because I think they're all fully developed with more than 12,000 gross square feet.
And in no case can anyone exceed 15,000 square feet of gross floor area. So that's the cap. So again, they're all getting the same amount exempt. The one lot that is only gets 10,000, 10,9 floor area gets a little bit of say below grade space to get to their exemption before, you know, then they kick into TDR growth management. So I think that's Joanna's point about we're trying to give everybody an equal exemption.
Yeah.
Really, that's the only lot that gets a different, you know, it divvies up differently for that lot because their allowed floor area above grade floor area is less than the other lots.
Joe, your comfort level?
Sorry, I brought it up.
No, it's,
Oh, yeah. hang on. Switch
Are you ready to move to your second note, Joe?
Yeah, the only, well, I think that was it. I mean, Joanna picked up the first one, which was Star Mesa, and that was just clarification. And then the preserve, I think, you know, I'm happy with the explanation that we have. The only other thing I think is that we just have a couple typos in there where it says 12,823 rather than 873. There's a couple spots in, hang on, let me put it back up.
Got it.
Yeah, up here. And then,
Can you share again?
yeah, let me share it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so up here in the note 12, 12,823, that's just a typo. So likewise here.
This is 873.
Got it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Section 1. Moving to section 2, Joanna.
Thank you. Moving on. Section 2 adds a new definition. It adds a new use to the land use code. Right now, the land use code says if it's a use that is not listed, it's prohibited. And right now, helicopter landing and flying in and out of your property is not specifically called out in the code. Staff has always viewed that as a use that's not listed and therefore prohibited. We were challenged on that recently, and the attorney's office felt it was best if we specified a use and then prohibited where we didn't want it. That's not to say you can't land a helicopter in Pickens County. Obviously, we have exceptions for that. The airport or search and rescue. By special review, you can use a helicopter for construction in the rural and remote zone district. So we tried to call out those exceptions. And other than that, we are looking to prohibit helicopter and fixed wing aircraft loading and unloading, basically everywhere else in the county. And we are creating a new definition, we're adopting a definition for ordinary high water mark. Right now we have, we refer to that in we have a lot of different terms for that. And so we want to have better consistency in the code, and we want to adopt the term and the definition that's used by the Army Corps of Engineers, and that's ordinary high water mark. It's an industry term. Again, it's just greater consistency. In doing that, we would delete our current definition for high water mark, which is one of the terms that we use. And then general services, we want to make a simple change to allow bakeries out at the ABC to sell some of their goods in a little accessory retail shop of bakery goods. Right now, bakeries are allowed, but they're not allowed a retail aspect. It's wholesale only. And so we want to open that up a little bit. And that's the change we're proposing under general services. Development, this I think is the most controversial change of the night. What we want to do is regarding fencing. So right now, wildlife friendly fencing is allowed anywhere in the code and you don't need a permit. If you are on a parcel that is assessed as agricultural by the assessor's office, you are also exempt from fencing regulations. Those are the two exceptions we're still endorsing or still allowing. And other than that, we'd like to require permits for all other types of fencing so that staff can review whether the fencing is appropriate given areas of constraint, wildlife, and things like that. So right now, there's no fencing code section that we have. People call up, they want to know if they need a permit for a fence. And there's conflicting things. There's 3 or 4 different chapters that mention fencing. And when you finally find it under the definition of development, even then it's not clear to people whether or not they need a permit. So for the sake of ease and greater enforcement, we're looking to require a permit for fencing. So again, I think that's the most controversial one. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So bizarrely, I think the fencing's awesome. Thank you. You saw my less than salubrious neighborhood. I would like to see 0 fences here. So question on the helicopter landing. We do have one runway in my neighborhood. It is demarcated by cones. It's the McBride Ranch. How does this impact? So I'll give you a couple questions. So I know there are current use, and the caucus master plan actually permits one landing strip in the caucus area, this part of Bohan Gulch. And the second one is the other active user of helicopters that we know is Pitkin County. And that's how they drag the propane into rural and remote, and then that's the backup plan for towers. So does this impact either someone like John McBride or Pitkin County with regards to helicopters and landing? And then bizarrely, I do have a problem with adding Bakeries. Bakeries is actually, I don't know how you align with the IBC, and you could tell me, Jeffrey, we don't. But the IBC considers bakeries in 306.2 modern hazard factories. And so it's not just as simple as saying, great, we have a bakery and we could do retail. So, the IBC is much stricter in terms of code. Putting it in, general services, it's different than a restaurant, which is assembly. Again, it's a higher risk. So I don't know if it deserves to be in the same category. Does that make sense?
So are you concerned about the bakery use or the retail use? Because the bakery use is already allowed.
I'm concerned. I guess it's a question. I'm not looking to negate the change, but I'm just saying the way the international code works. So section 306.2 is bakeries, and it puts it in moderate hazard factory industrial. And so it's strange that we're putting an industrial use as a permitted use under general services. My question is, how are we aligning with the IBC, versus a restaurant, for example, is assembly. So I'm just making sure from a health safety standpoint that this really is a non-event. And I can't, from the reading of the land use code changes, say it is. That's it for section 2.
Okay, I'll make some comments. I had the same thought on McBride's landing strip. I'm not sure he's flying anymore or not, but
he doesn't fly me way too much. He said he won't take me.
But I know that because I've had clients that have also looked at, where can I land my helicopter, and
Yeah.
I want to land on my lot. But yeah, I hadn't understood that a dirt strip basically, if you're otherwise in compliance, was now going to get prohibited. Let's see, then I'll just buzz through these real quick. Interesting point on general services. Thanks, Jeffrey. But doesn't that category rating really just impact the fire? The fire.
It's fire
resistance in the walls
height,
and so on.
I have it under factory, and it's under factory. Moderate hazard is bakeries, and again, I'm just concerned that we're putting a moderate hazard use in with something that was otherwise safe, and that's why bakeries are separate from a restaurant, for example. Restaurants are considered assembly versus bakery is a moderate hazard.
Yeah, and so you got a higher risk of a fire with a bakery, I guess, is the concept, than you do with a restaurant.
And you could say, Jeffrey, this is land use, this is not building code, and we're just grouping them.
No, I don't want to get too deep on the development and the fence permits, but what is I think I've looked through this before. Is a gate considered a fence? I guess a gate is considered a fence. I don't know if we're cleaning that up, whether that's something that we want to clean up. But I agree. This is because I've had people ask about fence permits and look at it, and it's like, call Joanna. She'll tell you what the rules are. That's it from my end.
I had a question about the high water mark. It's Monty.
Please.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hey, Joanna, so does that change the actual high water, the definition itself? Does that actually change where the high water mark will be calculated from for like setbacks?
I don't believe it. I don't believe so. Basically, it's taken from the same spot. It's just worded differently. I don't know, Suzanne, if you want to speak
Yeah,
to.
I can jump in. I don't think so, Monty, because when you read the language, the first part of the old definition, it's the change from aquatic to terrestrial. I think the Army Corps definition provides more detail to understand what that is. And I think the second part of that existing definition, the high water line of a stream discharge with an average recurrence interval of 10 years. I don't think any of us have ever really known, what that is or who makes that determination or whatever. So I think, I guess to answer your question, I think the definition more clearly defines, we're looking for that point where it changes, and that's the high water, the high water mark. And this is the standard definition that people refer to. So, I don't think it has an effect on making that higher or lower.
But we used the 100-year floodplain as the high water mark before, correct?
No, totally different. This is the high water mark is how we determine the 100-foot setback off of a river or creek. The floodplain is a totally, different determination of what that line is.
Okay, I just wanted to clear on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me just make one quick comment, I guess, which would be, it'd be nice to have a code that people can understand and understand where my 100-foot starts with. And I don't know, and I'm not into redoing this at this point, but it seems like in order to figure out where my ordinary high water mark is, I probably got to hire some sort of water engineer or somebody to, come out and evaluate it. Be nice if we had something that was more easily identifiable, but maybe it's just not possible given given the whatever ebb and flow of the river and so on. And so
yeah, I think anytime it's at question, right, we do need somebody who can go out there, whether it's a biologist, ecologist, something along those lines, who can really go, there's a different kind of soil here and here, and that's what helps me determine what that line is. Different vegetation, different soil, all of those things. So, when it's not an issue, but then not such a big deal. But when we're really going, no, we got to make sure, then we do need somebody who can make a determination based on that definition. Do you want me to jump in on some of the other, I guess, comments that have come up? I think we recognize John McBride's airstrip as, existing legal, non-conforming. I'm not sure how we'll codify that because there is another airstrip in Old Snowmass that was used and has not been used now for decades, I believe. We would not consider that to still be a legitimate airstrip, one that has remained active. And I think in my knowledge, John McBride's is the only one. So I'm not sure. We'd have to create some pretty specific language, I think, to capture that. Because otherwise we've always been very straight to people that, that the only place you can take off and land something is at the airport, other than, that one active airstrip. And we've been getting a lot more push about it of late.
And I'm not trying to open it up. I'm just, the caucus, obviously, whatever you want to call it, Steve Child's backyard it is seen as a permitted use, certainly within neighborhood planning area. And my other concern would be just sort of health, safety, fire, what are we permitting, and just looking forward, that is that an asset that we potentially tap, and it it serves the entire neighborhood, even though I'm too heavy to fly in his plane. And again, just my concern was that Pitkin County probably is the biggest helicopter user, both health safety as well as towers, propane, all their sort of activities. They're the ones flying over most often here. So I just want to make sure we capture that. We didn't.
And I think that's all captured in those exceptions in the definition that Joanna drafted. I think, right, the only one that's missing is that existing airstrip.
And again, vetted sort of by the caucus recently, seen as a permitted use. And I'm sure the cones right now that mark the runway are actually under snow, so you can't see the runway.
This is Zach. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hey, sorry. I just have 2 comments really quickly. The first one being on the runways. I had some family members that used to have a ranch over in Delta County by Paonia, and they had an approved dirt strip that they would fly planes out of, and there's an FAA approval process and an application and a payment fee that has to be made every year through the FAA to keep that runway operational. So there's actually a website that you can look and pull all the backcountry dirt landing strips in the state of Colorado and helicopter strips in Colorado and see where they all are and see if everyone is up to has their permitting cleared and their lighting and all the stuff that the FAA needs from them. And I actually know of one house in Pitkin County that does have a helicopter landing pad on it. So I'm not sure how there might be some overlap with the FAA permitting that the county could look into to make sure that no one gets left out that has been, has a dirt strip that's grandfathered in and they've been paying the permitting and they're certified. And then my second comment was only that with the high watermark, the new definition of a high watermark with the 10-year mean average, as we're trending to get less and less snowfall every year, and the water levels on the Roaring Fork are dropping, then then based on that new definition, the high watermark is dropping, which moves the distance that you can build a home closer to the riparian area as the high watermark drops, would be my interpretation of that. So that might not be great if the 10-year average or mean drops, the watermark drops, and then you're moving development and building activities closer to the river. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Zach. Further questions or comments on section 2? And Joanna, if I wasn't clear, my concern is moving a factory use into a business use. And if you're looking at the IBC, we would never move a moderate hazard factory into business use. And that's my concern about bakeries. I'm not against bakeries.
As I understand your concern, it's about the bakery. It's not about the retail. It's about the bakery use that's existing, that's there.
Yeah, if you open up the IBC page 42 of section 304, the business group is separate from the moderate hazard factory group, and bakery is considered a hazard. And so I'm just concerned that how does the land use code align with the IBC?
Well, and I think Jeffrey obviously can't answer that for you now,
no.
and you've read the IBC more than we have. But yeah, I mean, we can certainly ask the building folks, but I think from the use perspective, it was obviously, I think everybody's been to a place that's a wholesale bakery and you can show up and buy stuff. And I think that was the question that came to Joanna from the bakery out at the ABC. Again, from the IBC perspective, if there's a way to accommodate that, but you have to have certain separations, again, classify the spaces differently.
Right.
I assume there's a way to get there. Obviously, our side of it is accommodating the use. There still would be those hoops to jump through on the building side, but we can certainly talk to them more before we push this forward to the BOCC.
Yeah,
to make sure we're not creating something that's not doable.
my concern is someone thinks that they're blessed to do it, and then they don't have a 2-hour firewall between the bakery and the customers, and we lose people. And so to me, yeah, I can't just say, yes, put bakery in this, which is a moderate hazard, in with restaurant, which is just assembly. And so, yeah, I want 4 layers of gypsum board between, you know, the hoagie and the client. And so maybe, you know, again, I would vet it with building and say they're comfortable with it, but I'm not. You know, and I'm just wearing my IBC hat. Suzanne.
So that's good. We need an IBC hat because Joanna and I don't have one of those.
I am comfortable with the, if I look specifically at the ABC and bakeries there, and you're being allowed to walk in, stand before a counter and buy a sweet roll or something, I have no problem with that. In fact, I approve of it and would agree with what you all are suggesting. In terms of the helicopters and the landing, what staff is recommending, I'm very comfortable with. With fences, because I see that as a wildlife issue, I am comfortable with that also.
Any questions on section 2? Or otherwise we're rolling on to section 3. Joanna, section 3. It's a repeat.
Section 3 just kind of cleans up all those terms that we used and that we would now like to consistently apply ordinary high watermark. And some of those terms are high watermark, high water line, mean identifiable high watermark, and ordinary high watermark. So in chapters 4, 5, 7, and 8, all those terms are now being changed to ordinary high watermark. It's exciting stuff, I know.
And I also am very comfortable with that and would vote yes.
Section 4, unless we have anything else on section 3.
Okay, and section 4 is creating the helicopter and fixed wing aircraft loading and unloading use, and again dropping it into there are certain zones that are specified in chapter 3 that are not residential in nature, and in chapter 3 those have uses that are spelled out specifically as prohibited. So we're adding this use and prohibiting it in those zone districts, specifically the rural and remote, the public, the industrial, and the unclassified, and then the accommodations recreation zone. Not even sure where we have one of those, Suzanne. It's kind of an odd one.
So that means I
think we
can't
got your
spray my
comments on the
backyard
helicopter.
with you know, any glyphosate or whatever it's called anymore with an overhead landing. As a joke. Any questions on section 4? If John McBride was here, he would say, but I'm exempt. Questions on section 4, or we're moving to the resolution, unless there's any other commissioner and or public comment. Seeing none. Before someone makes a resolution, can we, Suzanne and Joanna, remove recital 1 because we already approved recital 1 as per resolution PZ 03/2021?
As always, Jeffrey found some typos in our documents. And right, the title and the first recital were not cut out as they should have been to reflect the new amendments that are proposed. So I think those are the only 2 places, Jeffrey, unless you found others. But the title needs to reflect that we're making amendments to chapters 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11. And I didn't break it down into all of those subsections. And then just the recital 1 would be proposing land use code text amendments to clarify and clean up various provisions. We could make that more detailed, to try and break out amending growth management exemptions, adding, addressing certain things. We could add a little more detail to that, but we could certainly take away the old language that shouldn't have been there.
So that would be wonderful. So just for the Planning and Zoning Committee, so when you make the motion for this resolution, in March, we already removed the Agricultural Building Review Committee, which was sections 23010 and 52070. That's already been removed from the land use code. And in March of 2021, we also removed the Parks and Recreation exaction fee, which was PZ 03-2021. So those should be struck from this evening's resolution as we've already adopted them. Any further questions or comments, or at this point, I would entertain a resolution. So, because I'm seeing yawns on Zoom. So I would entertain.
So moved.
I would entertain Joe's resolution of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Pitkin County, Colorado, recommending approval of amendments to the 2006 Pitkin County Land Use Code, Title 8 of the Pitkin County Code, specifically the sections that Suzanne just mentioned and the ones that Jeffrey mentioned we're not approving this evening. I have a motion, I think, still from Joe.
Yes.
And a second from?
I'll second it.
And a second from Suzanne. And Joanna, did you have your finger up because you had some further thoughts?
I just want to clarify what you're saying. So you're not approving the general services and you're not approving the helicopter?
So we did not. This is a motion as it currently stands, which is as you drafted. The only thing that we did was remove the Agricultural Building Review Committee 23010, 52070, and the Parks and Rec exaction fee.
Right, that's on the resolution. I'm sorry. Okay.
I will vote against this evening because of the health safety concerns I have over bakeries and the lack of clarity over, my neighbor's helicopter. But we left your resolution as it stands with the removal of what we provided in March. That was Joe's motion and Suzanne's second. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
So no other changes, no changes to the resolution other than the removal of what we've already approved. Further commissioner discussions. Otherwise, I will do a roll call vote. Seeing no further discussion, Cliff Weiss.
Aye.
Jasmine Tiger.
Yes.
Joe Kraybacher.
Yay.
Suzanne Caskey.
Yes.
Zachary Matthews.
Yes.
And the chair is a no, based on both the language for the helicopter and grouping factory with business use, which is verboten in building code. So as much as I like baked goods. So the motion passes 5-1. Any abstains? Sorry, I got everyone right. 5-1.
Looks like we lost Monty, so yep, I think you got everybody.
He just joined us again.
Oh.
And sorry, Monty, you were a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion passes 6-1. Joanna Schaffner, thank you so much for the random and furious sections 1 through 4. And any other business this evening? It is 6:22 p.m. Happy New Year.
So just quick for those who weren't on earlier, we do have the Burco calendars for you. If you don't want one, let me know. If you would like us to mail it to me, you let me know, or if you can pick it up at our office. I can send an email so people can respond to that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you
Always.
to Bonnie Shiles for all of your work in keeping us, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called herding cats, but thank you for that. And Joanna, thank you for all your work on updating the code. And we really appreciate this because we are just missing you and missing all of our colleagues at Pitkin County. So it was nice to get a meeting in between, the middle of a holiday and the middle of a holiday. So let it snow. Motion, unless there's anything else, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Hey, I
I
just
know
like
we're
to say
between
that-
Suzanne's dinner and Suzanne's dinner. Sorry, Zach, or I didn't hear who that was.
it's Monty.
Monty.
Hey, I just wanted to let everybody know, I just heard today Brian Paul was leaving as head building inspector, and, just from P&Z point of view, and knowing him through what a man of great integrity, and I think he'll be sorely missed at ComDev.
Here, here. Joanna, Bonnie, Suzanne, Cindy for being a slacker and not staying for the whole meeting. Everyone a happy and healthy. I would take a motion to adjourn. Happy and healthy New Year.
Thanks,
Motion
everybody.
to adjourn.
Excellent. Thank you, Cliff. Second from Suzanne. All those in favor of adjourning for 2021?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a wonderful
I
New
am
Year.
by.
Aye. Aye.
Happy and healthy. Again, Joanna, thank you for your wonderful work. Cindy, Suzanne, Bonnie, thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome and
Thanks,
happy
everybody.
holidays.